Hey guys, Matt, IronTrap Garage. Today we're going to do a maybe quick video on trying to answer a bunch of questions we get in one shot. So we get a lot of questions about what's going on with this car. Did you sell that car? What are you doing next on that car? So we figured we'd do kind of like a project update. Even though it is still summertime, we're rolling into the fall and the winter, and we already start thinking ahead about what cars we're going to work on, get everything set, trying to get all our parts together. So we figured in this video, we'll kind of do a wrap up on most all the cars that are floating around on the property that we're going to be working on, and we can show you guys a little bit more what's going on with those. All right, so the Merc is the first one we're going to talk about. So I've been changing up a little bit and we've talked, if you listen to our podcast, we talk a lot about theory and being productive and different things like that. So I've been trying to change my mindset with some of the projects, trying to focus a little more on some cars, at least for a short period of time, to get major things done on the car. So the Mercury, you guys noticed last winter, this was my focus. I pretty much worked all winter into the spring on this car on doing the chop, doing all the different customization, Columbia rear, lowering it, all that stuff, and pretty much got it to a good drivable point now. Now I can start driving it and enjoying it. So this winter, I'm going to probably be working on some more of like small, I'm going to use that in quotations, small for me projects. So one of the things we didn't get done that I would have loved to get done this year was the dash and the steering wheel. So Rehab's Rod and Upholstery, they did a great job on the interior, but the dash and the steering wheel don't match the interior now, as far as like they still look old and crappy. So with this being a custom, I'm going to be swapping out the dash and the steering wheel and all of that stuff. So I've been gathering this year, like we talk about a lot with projects, in the background, you're gathering things and getting ready. So I've been gathering and putting together parts to put a 5051 Mercury dash in this car. I think it'd be really cool, and having the like die cast chrome teeth, if you will, or fins on the dash that are factory, I think will look really cool. And then the other plan is to put a like 46-8 Lincoln Zephyr Continental red lucite wheel in this. I have a really nice used wheel that I think I can polish up, and for this car kind of being like driver quality or survivor type quality like we're doing with it, the wheel will be perfectly fine. So by putting that and the steering wheel in the car, that's kind of my big things for this car this winter. Otherwise, it's just kind of like leave it alone. I may work on also, of course, the window stainless. The windows all work like you guys saw, but I didn't get time to actually sand and polish the window frames, and then figuring out all the window seals. That'll be some of the small jobs that we can just kind of do in a lull of everything else. But that's kind of it for the Merc this year. Probably going to drive it for a couple of years, just like it is, before we do any other major things to that. So that's what's going on with the Mercury. All right, sedan delivery. So sedan delivery, we did a big push, as you guys saw last winter, to get the sedan delivery kind of get it on the road. Like a lot of these cars we do, and much like anyone else, just on a grander scale, we always are on a little bit of a budget. And rebuild budget and time. So rebuilding a flathead on every single car isn't always the most effective or cost effective, whatever you want to say. And this one, we had an engine we found at an estate, ran it on the run stand, everything seemed good, but it seems like it's burning some oil. I've been trying to drive it a little bit this summer, and I'm going to drive it through the fall and into the winter. And hopefully it's just a ring that's a little sticky, but that's the only really on this thing, that's probably the biggest major thing that there is on this to look at. If the engine just continues to burn oil and doesn't really get any better, we may have to pull the engine and either rebuild it or put another engine in that is rebuilt. Not sure, but other than that, this thing is just drive it around. I got a couple little things we need to do, like put some trim back on, and that's kind of it. So it's nice to say on a car like this, like there's not a lot to do. I'd love to get the top insert made. It has the original roof insert in it that is pretty darn thin. So as I drive this thing, especially we're doing like highway speeds, it can be a little bit of a quick deterioration on the top of this. So I'm going to be looking forward to maybe lining up one of our handful of upholstery people we use in the area to maybe work on getting a roof insert redone for this, kind of an original style. But otherwise, this thing, we're just driving it, enjoying it. It's pretty nice to have this thing on the road again. I've already taken it to use it at some flea markets, and that's the plan for us this year. It doesn't smoke so bad that you can't drive it. It's just a little bit of an annoyance. So I'm going to continue to use it and it's just an old car. I'm just going to drive it and use it. All right, so 38 convertible is one that we had done a ton of work to, not last winter, the winter before. We did a big push to get this thing back on the road. Cadillac engine in it with the 3940 running gear behind it. And I've just, actually this last summer we were driving it some. This summer I've really just driven it a bunch. This has actually been like my go-to to just like daily drive type deal. Drive it to the grocery store, drive it to visit friends, whatever. I've been driving this thing around. So it is a bit ugly. I know some people like the patina, but I think this one doesn't have as good of a look to it, and it actually kind of bothers me. What I've been waiting for on this car is trying to gather parts is the biggest thing. So we were fortunate this year that we had that estate in Long Island that the gentleman was gathering parts to build 38 Deluxes, 39 Standards. So when we brought all that stuff back, I immediately skimmed off the top. It was one of the main reasons we actually bought the estate, was because I needed some parts for this car, and he had most everything we needed. So biggest thing was the hood on this car is all smashed and banged and fits like crap. And I did some stuff to like get it to fit and look a little better, but it's really, really banged up, number one, which is a pain in the butt because this panel's so flat in here and all caved in. When you go to try and straighten it, you're gonna have all kinds of oil canning issues. Also, the hood in general on these 38 Deluxe, well, I should say any 38 and a 39 Standard, the hood alignment is very difficult, and it's not great even from the factory because of the like 3-piece hood section. You got all these pieces you're trying to line up with body lines. It's not great. So what I'd like to do, the big thing, I'm gonna try and put a little bit of time on this car this winter on the front end. So try and we have got a much better hood for this thing. So put that hood on. I got some better trim for the hood as well. Put that on. I'll do the modifications like shaving the hole in the hood, the remote hood latch, all that stuff, and try and get this hood fitting better with all these pieces. That's going to require cutting and welding. Sometimes you have to put pie-shaped slivers that you're going to have to add to it or reduce, whatever it takes to try and get the hood to fit better. The hood fits absolutely terrible on this car. When I've gone to some local cruise-ins, people run up to the car, your hood's unlatched, your hood's unlatched. It actually latches very well. It's just that with how everything fits, the body lines in the back are kind of lining up, but in the front, it's got this like almost hand-sized gap you can fit in. So it's gonna take a lot of time. That's the tedious work. It'll be fun to show that process, but just starting with a hood that isn't all caved in will be an improvement. So my goal is to kind of work on the front end of this car for like a month or so this fall/winter to get that taken care of. At the same time, I'm kind of doing that. The other big thing on this car is we went and put the engine, we went through the engine. It is a used engine that we put in, and it actually runs really, really well. Good oil pressure, doesn't overheat, all that kind of stuff. It's really good. The problem I'm having is the rear main seal on this is a rope seal, and it is leaking very, very badly. So it is using oil because it's leaking it out the rear main seal. We kind of saw when we started driving it, we were hoping that the rope seal would after running the engine would maybe get better. It has not. So I'm gonna probably, while we're doing that, we also got a Columbia rear for this, and we figured while we have it apart, we can put the Columbia in it. With the Cadillac engine that's in it, it can run higher RPM, so I've been okay driving on the highway, but again, having a Columbia, since we have them and I keep the best stuff for myself, we have a rebuilt Columbia that we got from one of those project cars in Long Island. We'll throw that in here. I also got the rest of the side trim for the side of the car that's been shaved, so I'll probably re-drill those holes and insert that side trim. So if I can get the hood fitting better, Steve will help me with doing the rear main seal and swapping out the rear and all that stuff. By spring, hopefully, this thing will have some panels that fit better, and it'll be even more drivable, and then I'll probably drive it again next summer and enjoy it and tinker on it as we go. But I'm really excited. I'm planning to make this car kind of on the same vein as the Mercury, where it's nice, but I'm not going to go crazy show car overboard. If it's something that I can put together and fix up myself and maybe even paint myself, it'll be totally acceptable. But we definitely got to do something about this look of it that we have now to get it. Even if the front end's in primer for a little while, it'll be better working our way back. But the plan on this car eventually is to make it shiny and probably use like a Bahama blue, which is like a GM color from the era, possibly. But some kind of blue to keep the identity of the car what it was before we'll respray in some sort of blue like that. But that's the plan for 38. Really excited. I actually really love this car and continue to work on this thing and eventually make it nice someday. All right, so 32 Roadster that we kind of nicknamed the Dorian Roadster. This is probably the vehicle I get asked if it's for sale most often, and it is not. And B, it is probably one of my favorite vehicles. This car has become like a nice worn-in pair of jeans or work boots. It's like it fits really good. It's just like I love this car, and I really at this point I've just been driving and enjoying it for a few summers now, 2-3 summers. It's been really good. We have some little odds and ends, annoying things with like any old car, but overall this car is one I can jump in. The overdrive in it is great, so when I go a little further from home, I can just pop it in overdrive. I run it for errands. It's a really great car. And the only thing I could say for this car, we're not going to do anything this winter really to this car, just drive and enjoy it. The engine that we put in, the engine we took out that we first had in was quite fast. It was a, hey Moon, Moon can ride in this one too. The engine we used to have in this car was a lot faster. So it was more of a built flathead, where this is kind of like a stock flathead with a camshaft. It runs good. It's fun around town. My ideal next thing to do with this car is maybe to get that. We pulled the engine out of this because it was consuming oil. Is to maybe get that engine built in the background maybe next summer. I don't know. And then it could be like a winter project to swap a rebuilt, fresh, hot engine in this thing. And that would really make it great, because it's nothing worse than when you had a car that was kind of fast, felt fast or faster, and then you put a slower engine in it. It's like kind of a bummer. So not that it's a race car, it's just, not as quick as it used to be. So otherwise, just drive and enjoy this car and not really do a lot to it. There's not even hardly anything I've been looking for this car. So the convertible top's the only big thing. If we could find a friend that does upholstery, one of the few shops we work with, if one of them have an opening, I still am looking to get the original top redone on this car. So maybe if Joe or Jerry or one of our friends that do interior have an opening, I might get it to them. Our friend Joe that's done the seat in this and the carpet and some of our other cars, he actually had an opening to do it like in the spring, early summer. But of course, Roadster in the summer, I didn't want to give the car up, so I declined just so I could continue to drive it. So fingers crossed, maybe this winter this will get a top, which I think will totally transform the car to bring it back to those old photos of when it was sitting in front of the Dorian family home right after he brought it from California. That would be the icing on the cake to get the top done for this car. Really be really neat. So that's all that's going on with this car. Just old pair of jeans, and no, it is not for sale. All right, so the 41 Lincoln, this is one we actually get a lot of questions about, with people asking what happened to it, because we posted a little bit about it when we did the Mad Scientist estate, and then it kind of like just disappeared. So we basically got this car running and moving, like lot drivable. So it basically, we can just move it around the yard or the driveway of the property, but we haven't done like anything to it. So I've been just kind of gathering parts and making a plan for this car. So this car is a major project. This is going to be kind of like a mix between the 38 and the Mercury, where it's going to need not only this car will probably need minor rust repair, but a lot of it's just like things that are beat up and banged up on it, and it was stored in a temporary shed for not temporary amount of time. So the paint and stuff is kind of ugly on it. This isn't one that I would leave in a patina finish. I think this is a car that you kind of just strip all the paint off and start fixing things or putting in a primer. Big thing on this car was, because it is a Lincoln, and the parts are mostly different than Ford and Mercury. Pretty much everything is different in some shape or form. When we did that estate, like we do a lot of times, we try and pull the parts that we think we will need for the cars we're going to work on or keep. So this car, we had pallets of Lincoln, Continental, and Zephyr parts that came with the estate, and we didn't even want to touch them because I didn't want to sell something that I would need later on. So I think it was this winter or spring, we went through those pallets finally, and I kind of looked at the car and went back and forth and like only kept what I thought I would need. So spare grille pieces, some stuff for the dash, some trim, not a lot of trim actually, but a handful of things that we thought we might need for it. My plan with this car, I don't know if we're going to get to it this winner or not. But I'm hoping to customize this car. I know it's going to make some people cringe, but much like I did with the Mercury, just trust the process. So what we've gathered is way back here, talented customizer Kevin Sledge posted this up on his Instagram. This is a Lincoln 3-window Lincoln Zephyr deck lid from like I think a 41 to 48 maybe, or 42 to 48. He posted this up for sale, and it's a dry West Coast deck lid with like no rust in it. And I was like, can you measure this? Because I had a plan, and he measured it for me, and it is like a perfect size to basically cut all the ugly. Sorry, if you're purist, you can look away. Fast forward about 5 minutes.
I'll put the time.
Yeah, just fast forward. So if you're still with us,
yes.
What we're planning to do is basically make a like factory looking custom out of this. So a Lincoln Continental is kind of like a custom from the factory already. It's basically like a sectioned car. It's like drawn out and sectioned from a Zephyr convertible. So this same era, you could get a Zephyr convertible that had a normal trunk lid in it, like the closed cars had, like the coupes had. But then in the Continental, they decided to do this, which I think it's why these cars are so affordable. It just is not a pleasing look to the general public. I know if you are a purist of Lincolns, sure, you probably grown to love it just like an ugly stepchild. But this car, it needs to be modified. Mike's laughing. So we're going to give it some, not plastic surgery, metal surgery, make it look a little better. So imagine this like the ugly stepchild Kardashian, and they had the money and time and skills to make it look hot. That's what we're going to do to this thing. That's my description. So take that deck lid. It's like the perfect size. That's probably the hardest part to recreate. So having something that's an original Lincoln piece, I can put that down in here. The shape and size is about right. So we'll probably cut all this portion of this out of here, make a trunk opening with a latch and all that stuff, and make all the panels around it, and make everything kind of flow. And then
reprofile the top to kind of
the Lincoln Continentals, especially the hard tops and the convertibles, the top is like super square. So what bothers me about these cars, or I think could be improved upon, not bothers me, is that everything like from here down is all rounded and sexy, and then you have this convertible top or hard top that's like square, and you have a windshield frame that's like square. And it's just much like we did with the Mercury, where it was like, you looked at the car and it's like, it's a beautiful car, but it just looks like they kind of like at the end, there was an afterthought and they just plopped the roof on. The convertible top on these, I feel like, is very similar. So I think moving this catwalk area or extending this catwalk area, you have this huge area here where the top kind of disappears in. So I think by extending the catwalk area to reduce the C-pillar section will kind of soften up and lighten up the car a little bit, and then also make it more rounded, a little bit lower. The windshield on these is actually kind of low from the factory. Again, the like factory custom thing. I don't think it needs a lot of height out of it, or maybe just changing the shape of the pillars. But the top needs to just be like softened up, and really, for my eye, I think it just needs to, with the car being like lower in the rear, all that needs to flow and again go down into the trunk lid. So we try and get a profile where the top, convertible top, goes down into the catwalk area and then just kind of naturally flows into it. If you think of the earlier 3-window Zephyrs, it's just like beautiful from the factory. It just, everything rolls and flows. It just, it's just really, really nice, where this, we want to try and do the same thing. So that's why I have that deck lid. I have better bumpers for this car.
There's a lot of parts.
We have a lot of parts thrown in this car, brand new tires. I haven't decided what I'm going to do with the dashboard in this car. I don't hate the dashboard, but it's not my favorite. So I've been considering maybe going to an earlier Zephyr dashboard, maybe do something with a waterfall. Maybe I just smooth and customize this and make a center waterfall for it. Don't know. It's kind of fun to be able to just have a blank slate. The other thing we have for this car is, while I know everyone is fascinated with the V12 Lincoln, Mike and I were brainstorming, and it was mostly Mike's idea. It was kind of struck us was the V12 in this, we believe, is rebuilt from everything we learned from the estate and how well it runs. So the plan is kind of like, this is a big car, and the V12 is neat, but it actually is not very powerful, especially for a big car like this. This car has factory overdrive in the trans. I believe 41 was the first year for a Borg Warner overdrive in the trans. So what I was thinking is we could put a Cadillac in it, custom, so we got recently, I think earlier this summer.
No, it was last winter.
Last winter, we got a 390 Cadillac out of like an early 60s Caddy. We got the trans adapter to bolt it right up to the Ford driveline stuff. So the idea is to put something that makes considerably more power, but is still of the era. I feel like a custom with a Caddy engine is like almost as popular as putting a flathead in it. And then the idea is the hand-me-down engine would go in the Mercury. So that's like stage 3 or 4. We thought how cool would it be if we pulled this Lincoln engine in the background while we're driving the Mercury around. We could start dressing up the Lincoln engine, clean it up, paint it, do all that. And then maybe like my third stage with the Mercury, we could work on the engine bay, pull the engine, clean it up really nice, maybe respray it. Put the Lincoln engine in, which you may or may not know, the Lincoln V12 uses the same transmission bell housing pattern as the V8s. So literally you can just bolt it right up. Now obviously we'll have to do something because it's a bigger engine with the radiator and the motor mount situation, but I think that's something that we can probably figure out. But back to this car, I think it would be cool. 390 Caddy, it's going to make a little more power, a lot more torque, and it'll just be good for driving this thing. I think the power will be appropriate because you figure a 60s Caddy is probably similar in size and weight to a Lincoln Continental. So I think it'll be appropriate. And with it being like a custom, you don't really ever open the hood. So a Caddy with a 4-barrel on it that just starts and runs every time, runs nice and cool. I think that would be awesome in this car. And it's kind of a neat idea to have the hand-me-down engine. We'll have the Lincoln steering wheel in it that'll give you a little, sneak peek. And having that in there with a good V12 exhaust in it, I think that'll take the Merc even further to the top. So I'm really excited about this car. We're just trying to wait to be ready to do it. So I don't know if this winter I'm going to get to it. Best case scenario, maybe, but more than likely this is going to be the following winter, would be just like the Merc, where I just put to spend the winter just in the garage every day working on and making this car cool. So that's the goal. Really excited about this one. This is definitely one we get asked about a lot. All right, free T. Free T has been a thorn in my side since the day I built it. Not only did this car try to kill me, go back to when the build section of this where I got a very bad infection in my arm and was in the hospital for a while. We ended up missing the show we were going to take it to. And to be completely honest with everyone, I kind of screwed up when I was building this car. I was building a street car, but was putting race car stuff on it. And was not thinking of ergonomics and all that kind of stuff. I definitely have evolved and learned a lot from as I've been building cars on the channel. You kind of watch as we've been doing stuff. So this car, a lot of what we've been doing in the background of this car is trying to fix all the stuff that I didn't really think through, or was building something that wasn't even remotely streetable, and now it's become an issue. So a couple of things we've done, I don't know if we covered a little bit in the videos, but a lot of it we didn't really talk about because you're just like doing it in the background before the week in the life of videos. So number one, the engine that's over there is the engine it used to be in the car. I've been kind of quiet about it, but really what happened, number one, is the guy that built that engine for me totally bent me over and screwed me. We've been very nice about it, but I'm done being nice. He totally screwed me on it. He gave me an engine that was basically made it sound like it was just finish up some details on it and you could run it. He had the wrong valve springs in it that would literally, floated around inside the engine. There was a ton of stuff that was done wrong and not correct on it. And then once Steve and I fought with the engine and finally got all those things figured out, while we were getting valve fluid just out of idle, well, if you don't have valve springs that really even remotely fit the engine, that kind of causes that. So we got a lot of that figured out, and then we started driving it. And it's like, well, the engine's bored way too far out, has a really aggressive cam in it, and a tiny little radiator. And the thing was like, we could not keep the engine cool because it's 3 3/8. One of the cylinders even was so thin that they had to sleeve it when it was getting rebuilt. It is a strong engine once we worked through all of those issues of things that weren't finished correctly. It is a pretty strong engine. The little bit that we did get it out and drive it, it was good. But for the street, just as soon as you got in any kind of slow moving traffic or the car slowed down, it was starting to run hot and overheat. I did hide an electric fan in this car years ago. We kind of did like a nod to the old show cars where they would put perforated metal over the radiators. So I built this little box out of that, and we hid an electric fan, tried running that all the time, and it helped a little bit, but just with that engine, we could not keep it cool enough. So we had this other engine. We put an Isky cam in and did a little bit of stuff and painted it back up, swapped all the speed parts over, put it in, and actually last fall, I think Steve and I were messing with it, and we got it running the best it's ever run. It was mostly drivable around town. Again, the tiny little radiator, no matter what you do, you have to be a little careful with a flathead because it's just actually undersized for what is needed, but is better to the point where as long as you don't get caught in like crazy rush hour traffic, you'd be okay. The other thing we were running into was a problem is an issue that we come across, and it's a personal issue with me. We talk to customers about this all the time. I love the vintage and nostalgic and the rare old hot rod and racing parts. It's fun to collect them. I also have this thing about trying to make them work on cars. We've talked about it a bunch in videos. I had a pound and mag on this car that I was trying to run, and it just was not working for us. No matter what we did, I think when we had it rebuilt, the gentleman that redid the ignition kind of warned me that those pound-ins internally are kind of sloppy in how they're machined with the right angle drive and everything. And I just could not get the thing to work right. And every time we put a different ignition system on the car would run so much better. No matter how you turn the timing or anything you did, I just could not get the thing to perform correctly. Not the gentleman that did the work. I think it's actually, with that distributor, just was not the best thing for the street. Probably that distributor was designed for racing and was not really a street distributor, magneto. So I think that's where some of the issue was. So just recently this spring, I put a Harman Collins mag on this that actually it's one that was already rebuilt that we had found. I put that on the car and pulled we had like a Petronics distributor for testing on, and the cars never started and ran easier. When I had the pound and mag, the car was really hard to start. And we had a lot of issues with the thing that was even just starting it and idling it. And I put this on, and it was like the cars never started easier. Fires up really easy, and I think it's going to be a lot better. So what we're going to work on actually the end of this summer into the fall again, probably start driving this again and trying to work some of the bugs out. I really need to redo the gas pedal in this car. I kind of did it as a temporary thing to get it to that show we were trying to do. And now driving it's terrible. I'm going to be honest, it's completely terrible, and I need to redo it. So I have a couple different gas pedals that I have set aside from old hot rods or different stuff that I'm going to try and make work and try and get the linkage all working on it and try and make this thing more drivable. I've barely driven this car. I mean, we've done more driving, like test driving it, than actually taking it anywhere. So that's one of the goals with this car, is to kind of go back and go through all this stuff. Now that we figured out a lot of the problems that we had, we can start working through all that stuff. But my goal is to try and get back on this car. It's like we joked about, it's like having like having a hot trophy wife that is a pain in your ass. And that's what this car is. It looks awesome, but every time I try and drive it, it is a pain in my ass, and you get disgusted and don't even want to look at it for a little while. So that's why the Free T doesn't get talked about a lot, but it is on my list of things to try and get going because this is a keeper car for me, and I want to get it out and at least start using it a little bit more.
What are we going to put this in?
So the car is in here, so I guess we'll mention it. We have that 32 Roadster drag car that we got in Ohio, that Survivor car. So kind of the idea with that car, after doing some research and talking to the family of the previous owner, that car had a flathead in it. So the plan is to put a flathead back in it. This engine is a very strong engine. It is basically like built like a old school kind of more race engine. So that's already, we know it's a good running engine. So that's the idea, is to put that in that car. So I don't know if we'll get to it this winter or not, but basically we need to jig the body up, cut all the sub rails out, much like we did with the Dorian car, put new sub rails in it, fix the frame, do all that stuff. It's kind of like, we've done it a bunch of times now. And then the nice thing is that car is just like a skinned body. We don't really need to do a lot to it. It's just basically get the rust repair and the chassis all fixed on it, and then just put that engine in with a good trans, and it's already got a Halbrand in it, and just take it and do some fun little nostalgia, type events as the business has been growing and we're getting kind of settling in here. I'm hoping that I will get more time in the coming years to do some of these fun events that I don't get to because we're just trying to stay ahead of things. So that's what we're doing with that. So that engine will eventually go in a car and get used. That's why it just sits here for now.
It does look nice sitting here.
It does look pretty. I'm going to miss seeing that engine sitting there, but that is that's what's going on with that. All right, so Pagoda City Coupe, when we were working on buying the mill, and I put up a bunch of cars for sale just to see if it would help with the funds to purchase the mill. This was probably the one that I got shouted out the most that I wasn't allowed to sell. So it's kind of funny. This car, without planning it, this car has affected. A lot of people watch the Eastwood videos on building the chassis and putting this car together. And somehow a lot of people, it resonates with them as a, East Coast kind of survivor type looking car. And people were really upset. This is the car that a lot of people associate IronTrap with because it's the first one that we did, on the channel, kind of completed and everything like that. So this car runs awesome, drives decent. This is much like we were talking about with the T, where I learned a lot as doing it as I built the car and drove it. So especially me getting up better cars than other cars, when I go back and drive this car, I've realized how rough it rides, and I didn't set the spring up right on it. And the seat sits a little high, and there's different stuff like that now that I'm over the I think it's a lot of people deal with this when they build cars, hot rods and things like that, custom cars. You're so excited about getting the car on the road that you sometimes overlook things that suck. And then the longer you have the car and you drive it, you go, this is terrible. I got to fix this. So this car has a bunch of that stuff. And that's why I've slowly not driven it as much. The other thing is, again, being on a budget and building a car, I put a drop axle under this car that was, pulled out from an old hot rod. And I didn't do the kingpins or any of that. Well, they were fine for a while. But the last couple of times I started to drive it, the car's getting death wobble when you hit a bump. So I need to go and do some maintenance on this car. Had it on the road for a while. Drove it around a ton the first handful of years I had it on the road. And as that stuff started to happen, I kind of didn't drive it as much. So my plan for this car is, again, put this thing on the lift and just go over the stuff that I don't like. So we may have to go back and change the frame or the cross member a little bit to get the car sitting how I want, but with a softer spring. The seat is kind of something where we just need to chop the legs off the seat and just drop the seat down so I sit a little better. Our friend Jerry did the seat when he first started doing upholstery regularly, and he did a great job on the seat. The seat's holding up well. It's just when I built the seat, I had it sitting a little higher than it should have, not accounting for the thickness of the foam. So it's not as comfortable as it should be. So drop the seat down, and that'll get that fitting better. The front end is just normal maintenance stuff, tie rods, kingpin bushings, all that stuff. Just go through and refresh all that stuff, and it'll be pretty good to go. My pie in the sky thing with this car, because I do really love this car, is to probably upgrade the engine. So I have a Judson supercharger, and I have another smaller Scott blower over there that's appropriately sized for a flathead V8. So one of those would be really cool on this car. Again, I'm not going to do that right away because I need to get some of the maintenance stuff taken care of. But this is the not fun part about having a bunch of old cars, is you kind of forget about all the issues, and then you go to drive it and you're like, oh, this is terrible. This is terrible. That sucks. This is terrible. That's where we're at with this car. It starts and runs awesome, super reliable, but it rides like crap, and I got to do some maintenance stuff on it. So the great thing with having Steve now is that Steve has done a lot of this stuff. So this car is a good example. We could put this on the lift, and while I'm doing some metalworking, Steve could pull the front end apart, get the kingpin bushings and all that stuff done, and he doesn't need me to actually be there and hold his hand on everything because he's now he's got it. So that's the plan on this car. Hopefully I'll get this thing back driving around a little more often because I do miss ripping around in this thing. All right, the Schroll 32. So this is another one that I put up for sale. People were kind of surprised about it. This car is awesome. I love this car. It's really fun to drive. This one, again, has evolved a little bit. And now that we've had it on the road for a while, some of the stuff that I would like to change, I've been struggling with a little bit. So Mostly what we'd like to do on this car is just some stuff to make it a little better to drive. So I think a couple winters ago, we did we ended up having where the engine that was in this car had a cracked head, and it was using coolant and running hot because of that. So we put these higher compression heads on it. We put a big camshaft in this thing, and it sounds awesome. It's nice and rowdy sounding, and no problems with the water issues anymore. What is the problem now is the combination of parts that I put together. Again, we're totally honest with everything we do here. I'm still learning. So didn't really think about what we did on the back end on the gear ratio side and all of that stuff with all the modifications we did. So with a stock engine and an aluminum flywheel and a 320 or whatever gear ratio, 320s or low 330s that was in it, it wasn't too bad to drive. As soon as we put the big camshaft in it and the high compression heads and all that stuff, and basically raise the power band, it is kind of a bear to drive now. The aluminum flywheel, you have to really zing the clutch to get it to pull out. With the camshaft that's in it, it needs higher RPMs to get it in its happy spot. And with all of that, the car is kind of a pain in the butt to drive around in just normal driving. So yes, it's good for the highway. When you get the RPMs up and you're on the highway, drives really, really great and it's happy. But when you're trying to drive around town or back roads, like in our area, a lot of our roads are windy, hilly back roads, and you feel like you're fighting yourself. The gear ratio and everything isn't quite right in it. So one of the biggest things on this car that I really need to do is do something with the rear end gear ratio. So this car, if you guys don't remember the process for building this car, this has actually a shoebox Ford rear in it, which is really, really neat, but there is almost nothing aftermarket for that. So I've been struggling with a couple of things on this car. Do we keep it 100% how the car was built back in the day, or do we start doing some minor liberties to this car, making some changes that will make the car more drivable? So a shoebox rear in this thing is essentially like a 7-inch rear. So an 8 or 9-inch rear looks identical. It's just, and uses some of the same parts. It's just smaller. So kind of the idea is, do we put an 8 or 9-inch rear in it? It'll look exactly the same. And then you can put posi in it. We can also get any gear ratio I want for it. I don't know. The short fix on this car is this does have a dropout center section in it. So when we got this car, it had a welded spider gears, and it had like 411s or something like that, or 413s, whatever, in it. And it was not something you could really drive on the street with that setup. So we put the automatic gear set that's in it for those era of cars. And again, it's like a 320 something, or I believe. So, we went totally the other way. So we were able to find in one of the estates that we've been cleaning out like 373s or 378s, whatever it is. So I think by putting that in the short term, that will make the car more drivable. Yes, our highway speed, will be a little lower, but really for what I use this car for, the 370 something will be fine. The other problem on this car is the front axle is a stock undropped 32 axle we reversed the spring on it, and the spring is really too soft on the car. It bangs off the crossmember when you go over overpasses and stuff like that. And while it isn't a problem, it's just basically annoying. So I've been struggling with, do we leave the axle on? The old photos of this car has a stock axle on it, or do we evolve the car a little bit? This isn't a famous cover car where we're worried about the value of the car. It's just a personal thing. I struggle with that a lot. So I think what I probably should do on this car is put an old drop axle on this thing. It will allow us to put a stiffer spring on the car and get the frame up off of the axle while still keeping the car at the height that it's at. So that's what I've been kind of thinking about, is putting together a drop axle, a whole front suspension setup, and we can roll it out. Roll out this stuff and roll another one underneath of it. And also, this car is a good candidate with all the old chrome on it for chrome stuff on the front end. We have chrome backing plates and different things like that. We also have set aside somewhere over there, you can see there's a little pile of chrome. Chrome's crossover generator, and there's an oil pan over there. So that's some of the fun stuff, but we do need to take care of some of the drivability stuff. The transmission that's in this car It has a 37 LaSalle that we put in it. It's a little worn out, and it has to definitely have to be careful when you're shifting it. It's kind of sloppy and stuff like that. So sometime it would be nice to redo that, but that's not like a huge issue. Getting the gear ratio or potentially swapping out to a steel flywheel could help it. I'm going to start with the gear ratio and the front axle stuff. So again, that's a lot of this is nuts and bolts stuff that will keep Steve busy, and will make the car, again, more drivable, more enjoyable to drive. And since it's a car that isn't really for sale currently, I think we just keep fixing it and doing stuff like that. And I don't think putting a drop axle or any of that stuff is really going to hurt the look of the car. It's just me being like, oh, it doesn't look like the old photo. That's a nerdy, dorky thing that really does not matter in the end of the day. So stroll car is awesome. Just need to do some evolving of the car to make it even better. All right, so spot number 2 for cars that are stashed all over the place. So this is probably one we get the most questions about, Sweetheart Roadster. I've been slacking on this thing, not slacking, taking hiatus for quite a while on this car. As far as metalwork goes, this is probably going to be one I'm going to focus on this winter. I've been struggling on this car with stuff that I've done, and I've gotten better over the years, and I don't like. So I made the doors and some of the stuff on this car, and while it's okay, it's not as nice as I would like. Ever since I got the reciprocating like Pullmax type machine, I can stamp things a little better now and make things a little more crisp and just better than using a bead roller. So I think I am going to probably redo the door skins on this car. The inner structure is just fine on it, but the door skins have never been quite to my liking. I've messed with them a bunch of times, but they need to be probably gone over to match the quality of work that I would like to have on it, and just reduce the amount of body filler and body work that's going to be needed on it. The car, like all the rust repair on this car is pretty much done. A lot of it is just figuring out fit and finish. And then the more I stare at the car, there's been things that I just don't like or want to change. So like the louvered deck lid, I like it, but now that I've seen it on the car, I actually don't know if I love it with the style of the car. So I may actually change that back to just a normal smooth deck lid. But this is the stuff that you run into when you have a car sitting and you stare at it forever. But I'm glad I didn't paint the car and rush through it and then hate the deck lid. So I think I might swap that out. It kind of stinks because some of the stuff I've already worked on are gapped, and now I'm redoing it again, but it's just the nature of the beast when you're doing a car over a long period of time. Otherwise, this car is just like getting these last little things done. I got to do some stuff with the steering, and I'm probably going to change the front axle that's on this car, the drop axle that's on it. So I do need to kind of go back and redo some of that stuff, get the drag link and the tie rod stuff figured out. It does all have to be custom. A lot of it's not fun stuff, and that's what stalls all of us on our projects. When you get over all the fun, exciting things to do, then you get down to the nitty gritty of the stuff to make it actually work or drive, or in this instance, steer. Not as fun, and you start looking for other things to do, and then it sits like this. So I'm gonna make a conscious effort to make some big progress on this. I'm not gonna make any promises I'm gonna get it like done, but making good progress to move forward on this car is very important. And that's some of the stuff I'll be focusing on this fall and this winter to get this moving forward. I'd love to have this to a point where maybe similar to like what I did with the Mercury, I could maybe work on doing some body filler, body work type stuff over the summer, because that's something I can kind of work at in between traveling and doing events, where I could just start doing some body filler type work and block sanding and all of that, especially when it's nice outside and you have the shop doors open or whatever. Makes it a lot nicer when you're doing that than being locked in the shop in the wintertime. So that's what's going on with Sweetheart Roadster. Hopefully this thing evolves and it gets much, much closer to being a car that could be on the road next year. That's the goal. Fingers crossed. Give me hell in the comments. Over. So, with that interruption, so give me hell in the comments. I need the little kick in the ass to get moving on this thing, but I will continue to work on this thing hopefully over the winter, and like I said, move forward on it. All right, so this is the one by far that we get the most questions about. I'm equally as excited as everyone else, but with me trying to get some other projects that were definitely in front of this one, moving along or progressing or done. The Mercury was a good example. The Mercury I've had for a while. I've been talking about chopping it for a long time. I wanted to get that done, and moving along so I could keep driving it. So that's why I kind of stalled on this project and focused on the Mercury. This car is definitely the next one that I'm going to put some focus into. This car, while I have done a lot of the hard work, doing the floors and substructure, and we put that's like stiffening bar in that we bent up out of DOM tubing. We got the dash fitting better. A lot of that stuff is done. The door's open and shut now. It needs a lot of refining, and we need to go back through and fit and finish type stuff. So on this, the biggest thing for fit and finish is the doors. I cut in the doors and adjusted the doors to the point where they open and latch and shut pretty darn good. Much better than when we got the car. But the door gap is still far too tight on the car. So what I need to do is go around the car, around both doors, cut the door gap opening to an acceptable amount, weld the door edge up, grind it all smooth. Anybody that's done metal work and body work knows that this is a very tedious process. So that's what we're planning. I need to do probably next on this car. Also, this has a Franklin quick change in the car, which is like a kind of like a Halbrand 201 type quick change, which uses banjo rear internals. That with this engine is definitely going to be an issue, even with some mild spirited driving. So I'd like to get take the center section and get the 9-inch axle conversion done and the axle tube set up for the 9-inch bearings. So I'm going to be working on that this winter. That's one of the things, get that stuff sent away and get that work done so that the rear end is basically all built. Because if we get the rear end all built, the engine is obviously good and is all rebuilt and kind of ready to go. Redo the LaSalle trans, which I have one in it. It probably just needs to get bearings and pieces like that redone in it. And then we'll have the drivetrain kind of like all good on the car. I can work on the metalworking stuff over the winter. So doing the door gaps. I need to move the radiator around a little bit because with the measurements that I got from Ron, I kind of set the engine in, but I did not account for the rake of the grill and radiator quite right. So when the radiator is in its spot, it's actually like the bottom of it's just barely touching the pulley for the blower. So I need to either make a custom top tank or I need to adjust the radiator and the grill up just a little bit. I'm not quite sure yet. Got to stare at that and figure it out. What the best solution is, but everything fits really nice. I'm really happy with how the engine fit in. It's just some of this other stuff. But the last big project we did on this was stamping that firewall. Pretty proud of how that came out. I think it's really, really nice, clean work, and it fits really, really well. So now it's kind of like starting to fit all those pieces around, make everything as good as that firewall is, and we'd be in business. I've been struggling with the paint job or finish on this car. Because this, again, is another one of these cars, it's a keeper car, I may just do all this metal work and just dust in some paint and drive it in the kind of like shitty form for a season or two, and then maybe we'll come back and paint it. I don't really know yet. But the biggest thing is to get this thing running and driving because I am very anxious to do that. And now that we are getting past some of these other projects, I'm going to probably focus on this in the fall and into the winter. And hopefully I can get it to a point where most of the work's done and we're just waiting on like a rear or some pieces like that, and I can jump on some of those other cars. But yes, 33.3 window is going to get some focus, and the goal is to get this thing running and driving for next season if everything goes as planned. So that's my unrealistic goal for this car.
All right, so I'll do my little part of my one vehicle here while Matt did 17 others. This winter, we're gonna clean up some stuff on this car. The biggest thing that we need to address is the door gaps. They're kind of V-shaped. They're really nice at the bottom of the door and they just progressively get bigger all the way up. And to fix that, we gotta cut the floor apart, the floor and the cowl, and do a lot of rearranging. So this winter, we're gonna drive it the rest of the season. This winter, we're gonna cut the floor right here at the A-pillar and move whatever needs to be moved to make it correct because it does not look great. It looks even worse inside the car. You can just see everything in there. So that's the big thing we need to fix. And then we're gonna blow it apart, paint a bunch of stuff, paint the frame. It's rust colored and red and multicolored all over. So paint the frame and chassis, get that all cleaned up, hopefully body work and paint the car. That's probably the number one question I get asked. What color am I gonna paint it? Hoping to do the same kind of off-whitish that it is now, but plans change. That's the plan for now. We'll see what happens as we get further along. I need to change the gauges because none of them work and I don't really want to spend thousands of dollars to restore them. So I think I'm going to go with some Stuart Warner coffin needle gauges that I already have. They've all been tested. I know they work. So I think that's the route we're going to go, but this winter we'll make a final plan once we get there. I think that's it. We just fixed the oil leak, so hopefully the rest of the season I can drive it and not spew oil everywhere. So nice, quick. Mine's not as long as Matt's. Just minor little things.
But Matt still has to do a lot of the work.
Yes, Matt's going to do all the work. So I'm just here to talk about it. So hopefully you'll see me driving it the rest of the season, and then next year, just enjoy it all summer long. Fingers crossed.
All right, so now we're going to get into a long-term project. 32.3 window is probably one I get asked the most randomly in emails and DMs if I'd like to sell it. That just because we haven't messed with it a while. Just because I haven't touched it doesn't mean that it's something that we're trying to sell. Basically, we got this car kind of like rolling and mocked up just so it was a pile of parts were in one place. But it's not something I'm trying to get rid of. I just want to get some of these other lingering projects or projects that have been started done first. With this thing, we have most of the stuff that we need for it, but a lot of it's just labor at this point. The body's super, super solid. It needs a little bit of patchwork, a little bit of floor work where it's a little bit of rust, also a little bit of stuff where somebody was kind of like chiseling the floor out. So I'm going to try and repair all that. I think I have all the floor pieces I need for it. My plans with this car could evolve, but I kind of want to chop it in a similar fashion as the Bacon Coupe. I've really liked the chop on that car and the overall vibe, that kind of 50s California hot rod kind of vibe, so keep it a high boy. I've been going back and forth on fenders on this car, or bob fenders, or what I want to do with it, or no fenders. I think that will evolve as I build it, but I definitely want to do a kind of like mild chop on the car, and with the 50s Lincoln Y block in it, LaSalle trans, chrome rear, a little bit of chrome stuff on it. I think it'll be pretty darn neat, but I'm probably not going to touch this. Definitely this winter, it's not going to get touched, but it's going to be a little bit of time till we get to it. But I need to start getting my punch list of stuff that I need to find for the car so that when we do jump on it, I can basically just start working on trying to find some obscure part. The door was the big thing that was holding me back on this thing. I think it was 2 winters ago, maybe. Can't even remember anymore. I found that pair of doors and I put the door in it. But the door, since it's from a completely different car, does not fit very well. So that's going to be the biggest project next time we get this thing down on the ground, is get both of the doors to open, shut, latch, all of that stuff like they're supposed to. Before we start chopping it, we definitely need to get everything to fit correctly in its stock form. Before we start cutting the car up and modifying it, we need to get everything in the stock situation, fitting how it should. But nothing really going on with it, just cool to look at. Hangs on the old lift, and it's a great spot for it, just to stare at it and dream every day. All right, so we're in our satellite storage now, satellite storage A. So this, right now, this 32 two-door sedan, if you guys remember, we were kind of working on it pretty heavy when we first got it, to try and get it moving under its own power. But we had some other projects that we wanted to just, finish up. Like Mike's car was more important to get it actually driving it on the road. So Steve and myself were kind of helping Mike get some of the mechanical stuff done. So we put this car aside. This car is actually really, really solid. We haven't even washed the darn thing yet. It's just covered in the barn dirt and the dirt that we've gotten on it, whatever. We did get it running decently, so the gas tank's all good. The engine and trans and all that stuff is in it. We got a 40 Ford rear under it. We got the drop axle under it. We got a lot of that stuff in. The major pieces are kind of set in place, but we need to get the brakes done. We need to do the wiring. The interior and some of that stuff is kind of, as found. So probably this is going to be a really good one here soon in the fall for Steve to get back on the lift. A lot of this is his work. I did a lot of some of the stuff I needed to do, and now he can kind of go through. We'll do the brake conversion, much like we did on the ruined Roadster, where we're going to use a lot of the factory pieces and make it look sort of like it could have been that way. We need to work on some of that. The big thing for me, as Steve has on the lift, is I'm going to have to build an exhaust for it, but we have headers on it and all that stuff. So that'll just be the car living on the lift for like a month while we do wiring, exhaust, brakes, all that kind of stuff. And then that'll be a good point where we're hoping in the spring that we can hopefully start driving it. So a lot of it's kind of bread and butter type work if everything goes as expected. So we should be able to get this thing at least bopping around town, I think, next spring. I'm pretty sure it's a realistic goal. Anything on this thing body-wise is okay or acceptable. I'll probably polish up the old paint and just live with the crappiness. I think this car will be kind of like a two-door version of the DeLorean Roadster, which is, you can't beat a, perfectly shitty old black paint 32 Ford, and that's what this thing's going to be. So very excited to get that going. This car also, I get asked almost weekly by people if it's for sale. It is not for sale. This car actually, we think, was bought in my hometown or in the area and has lived in this area pretty much since new, judging by some of the oil change stickers or lube stickers in it and different stuff like that. Other people in the area, they've known of the car for a long time. We could basically date it back to the 50s that this car has been in this area. So I don't think this car has probably ever left here. And I think because of that, I have a kind of personal connection with it and want to keep the car around. So it is not for sale. We're going to get on the road next year, and this will be kind of like my version of the red 34, the Skelly 34 that I used to drive around. Just a great car that I could throw friends in the back, bop around, do whatever. It has a roof on it, unlike all the convertibles I have, so if the weather is a little crappy or you're going to get some rain, you don't have to worry about having no roof at all. So you can just drive this thing and use it. We're actually going to put a heater back in this car, so you can even drive it into the winter as long as there isn't salt on the ground. So that'd be kind of neat to just, like we talk about, use it like an everyday car, and this thing will be rad for that. So that is kind of like the last major project. We could go on for probably 6 videos with all the other projects I have in my head. But those are the kind of ones that are we have sitting around, or cars in general. They're always projects, but that gives a little update on those. Hopefully this answered any questions. We get emails, messages, comments on videos of what's going on. Hopefully that answered all of that in one shot. If you have a car that you would like to see us work on, most importantly, or focus on, if you selfishly want to tell us that in the comments, we will listen to that and take it into consideration. Maybe we'll jump around if we get a lot of people asking about a particular car. Maybe we'll focus on that a little more so we can get good content to you guys. So that's all we have for this one. Thank you guys for listening and watching, and we'll catch you next time. See ya.